Hi, I'm Phil Buchanan. I'm president of the Center for Effective Philanthropy. This is our 2010 annual report. Center for Effective Philanthropy, CEP, is all about trying to harness data and insight that helps funders to assess and improve their effectiveness and ultimately their intended impact. And in 2010, we got some good affirmation that that's really happening. And I'll get to that, but let me start with some of the basics that you'd expect in an annual report. First, financial performance. $165,825, that was the amount of our surplus. And our better than budgeted performance was really a result of better than budgeted performance of our assessment tools, which is terrific in the sense that our proportion of earned revenue relative to contributed revenue has increased, and we're getting close to where we want to be, which is about 60-40 earned contributed. We still are very much reliant, particularly for our research and our programming and communications work, as well as the development of new tools, on grant support, and we continue to be grateful for the funding and support that we get from foundations like Hewlett and Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, which are our largest general operating support funders, but also for the many foundations that provide lower levels of discretionary support to CEP that really adds up and makes a difference. So I mentioned that the better than budgeted performance, and you can see all of that, the detail in our audited financials, which are on our website. I mentioned that was really about our assessment tools, and we did deliver 77 assessment tools, including 45 grantee perception reports. And one of the key things we learned in 2010 is that those foundations that repeat the grantee perception report are improving in meaningful ways, and we did a lot of analysis of that. Our research team did, and have a piece that we released in 2011, but we did a lot of the work in 2010, and that was really important. But we have a number of newer tools also, and 2010 was a year of progress for those newer tools. Wider adoption of the staff perception report, for example, which is a really important way for foundations to get a sense of how does staff think it's going on a variety of different dimensions, and how does that look relative to staff perceptions at other foundations. And then a newer tool still called the donor perception report for community foundations, which we think has so much promise, became much more widely adopted in 2010. So we're really excited about the momentum there. The donor perception report allows a community foundation to understand how it's doing in the eyes of its donors, and how that compares to other community foundations. And as we build that comparative data set, we really see great possibilities for the research findings that we'll be able to yield from that in terms of understanding how donors want to be engaged by community foundations, what motivates them, and so on. So it was really a good year for us in terms of our assessment tools work. It was also an excellent year for us in terms of research. We made a tremendous amount of progress on research projects like our Community Foundation Strategy project. Didn't release the findings yet, but got much closer to being ready to do so. But we did also release some important reports. Working with grantees was one, and that's about foundation grantee relationships and how to improve them. And we profile program officers in that report who are particularly exemplary. We name them with their permission, of course, because from our data set we know that they are exemplary in the way that they handle their relationships with their grantees. We also put out a piece about how foundations responded to the downturn and how grantees experienced the foundation response. It's pretty sobering, actually. It's called A Time of Need. We put out another piece looking at 3 foundations that are particularly good at understanding the fields in which they work and harnessing that understanding to the benefit of their grantees and ultimately to the benefit of the fields that they're trying to affect. So it was a very productive year for our research team. Our programming, communications, and development folks also had a really good year in which we saw significant progress in terms of our visibility. So 157% increase in web traffic over last year, and that's thanks to our new website and many of the features on that new website, like a new content library that allows you to search and access all of our findings in an easier way. Also a new blog blog that was launched just at the end of 2009, really took off in 2010, and features the perspectives of CEP staff as well as leaders in philanthropy. And we learned this year that it's the second most widely read blog by foundation CEOs, second only to the Huffington Post, according to a Foundation Center survey. So we were pleased with that. With respect to finance and administration, our staff who work in that area also had an excellent year. We made a lot of progress in terms of things like improving our training and orientation programs, our recruiting practices, our financial reporting. And so it was a good year for CEP in terms of the various accomplishments of the various people who work here and who do such a good job. It was also an important year for us to be looking to the future. So it was a planning year for us. We spent all year in an intensive planning process, working closely with our board, chaired by Stephen Heinz, president of the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, and a subset of our board, a strategic planning task force, chaired by Nadia Shmovonian, the president of Public-Private Ventures. And at the end of 2010, the board approved our plan, which lays out what we're going to do between now and 2014. And that plan is available in its entirety on our website, and I encourage you to read it. I'm not going to talk about everything in that plan, but I will tell you that one of the crucial aspects of the planning process was the data gathering we did to understand how are we doing. Is the work that CEP is undertaking having any kind of influence on foundation practice? And what we learned there was quite affirming. So just one example, 92% of funders who were surveyed by the LFA group for us said that they had changed at least one practice as a result of CEP resources. So what we see is that our work is making a difference. There's a lot more detail about that in the plan, and I encourage you to read it. So I want to just take this opportunity to thank you for listening to our 2010 annual report, and to thank all of the foundations that have used CEP's assessment tools and worked hard to change and improve on the basis of what they've learned, as well as the many funders of CEP who believe that we need better data in order for foundation leaders to make better decisions and ultimately do better philanthropy. Thanks very much. Please don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions.